John Mars, well, I have been so looking forward to this conversation. I've seen you, I've met you very briefly in the past, but I'm so lucky to spend some time with you. So, welcome to the next chapter.
Prepare for disappointment, Ellie.
I don't think that. I don't think it's going to be disappointing because I've heard you be interviewed, but we'll have a little go. So, as ever, we start with the prologue. So you live in Northampton now, but you grew up in Northampton. So you obviously love the area.
Yeah. Born and bred in Northampton, and then gravitated out of Northampton for various work things throughout the years.
And how I got this right, you grew up as an only child.
Oh yes, that probably explains a lot, doesn't it? Probably explains my imagination, really.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. No brothers, no sisters.
So okay, so you're an only child, and what I have read is that I think you were kind of okay at school. You said you enjoyed English. You weren't didn't like things like maths. So you say you didn't think you were particularly great at school.
I was okay. I was like I was an also ran. Wasn't great at sport. Most of the subjects I just kind of passed through okay. Maths was just a disaster. I took my maths, so we did the last year of O levels. So I took my O level maths and got a D, and then retook it three more times when it became a GCSE and got a D every time. I was studying for my A levels while doing my maths GCSE. So yeah, that's what I don't get on.
Well, at least you were consistent.
Yes, it didn't get worse. It
No.
just was it plateaued.
Yeah, exactly. So that was it. It's telling you, and because I've heard you be interviewed before, and I know now you have a lovely little 5-year-old boy, and I know I've heard you say about that you can see sometimes like he'll go into a room, and then you want to protect him because you start to be sort of what the people are around you. But presumably, as an only child, this was something that you were obviously very much in a grown-up world, and then when you went into classrooms and that, you sort of found yourself sort of being kind of again, it's almost like living in the imagination, isn't it, being what you think you should be.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had a lot of friends. I like to think I can get on with most people, and I think that really helped. And you kind of, I had a lot of friends and they had brothers and sisters, and so you kind of see how they interact with their brothers and sisters, and get an idea of how you kind of fit in the world. So yeah, I think a lot of people either assume if you're an only child that you're a spoiled brat or that you were incredibly lonely, and I was neither. I'd be quite happy to have been a spoiled brat, but alas, that wasn't going to happen.
So, well, no. So, because you carried on, so you decided you'd go into journalism because you thought, really, that's kind of what I can do.
Yeah, basically. And I had a couple of weeks. So I finished my A levels, and I had a couple of weeks work experience at a newspaper over in Daventry in Northamptonshire. And when that 2 weeks was up, they said, actually, we've got a vacancy here as a trainee reporter. Are you interested? And I'd applied to go to university to do. I can't remember what it was. I think it was media studies now. And I thought, you know what? I don't think I'm going to get forward in a career any faster by taking 3 years out to go to uni. So I am going to accept this job. And so I did that for about 2.5 years, and then packed it in and went backpacking around America for about 10 months or so with my friend.
Oh, that's brilliant. I think that's a really good, actually, just as a little side, like we talk about this now, our boys are older, but like if they don't go to university, it would be, we always think if they could do something like that, to just have that experience where you go off and you have to sort of find yourself a little bit in the world.
Absolutely.
And you obviously did that.
It was exactly that. So I'd lived with my mum and dad. I had my friends. I didn't really have much of a broad spectrum of a life outside of Northampton. And then all of a sudden you find yourself with your mate in the middle of somewhere in America, searching for a Greyhound station to try and travel from one end to the other. You've got nowhere to sleep that night, so you're kind of sleeping on your rucksack in a Greyhound station or on buses next to rather peculiar characters, and staying in backpacking hostels. And it's like so far removed from my actual life, but it was the thing that made me. I changed as a person during that experience.
In what way would you say? What do you mean that you changed?
I had to stand on my own 2 feet. I had to make my own decisions, some of them stupid, some of them good. There's no way I would ever let a child of mine go hitchhiking these days
No.
or anything like that. But I did that. It was not long after the LA riots back in the early 90s. And I found myself like one night just wandering around with my backpack on in downtown LA, walking past some of these burnt out buildings, trying to find a bus that would take me to the coast, just things like that. And it
Mm.
just, yeah, it just made me independent, gave me my own kind of thought process. All my opinions became my own, and they didn't come from parents or the friends that I was hanging around with at the time. Best thing I ever did.
Incredible. And did you up into this stage, did you always like reading?
Yeah, yeah. When I was a kid, I used to love reading like the Hardy Boys books. Loved adventure books like that. And I was a bit gutted to find out when I was an adult that the Hardy Boys books were actually there wasn't as I thought it was an author called Franklin W. Dixon, but he was just a pen name, and the books were written. He wrote about 160 in his life. And they were just like a conglomerate of writers all writing under that name. But I used to like those, and I kind of quite get into the Lord of the Rings books. And then, yeah, I think when I became a journalist, I read a lot less because I didn't want to spend all my days um, also all my days writing and then my evenings sitting in front of a book. So I went through a long period of not reading, and then I think it was Alex Garland's The Beach. That's what set me back into the world of reading, and because I absolutely fell in love with that book, and it's all about someone who leaves their life behind and goes and travels somewhere else. And while I didn't have the bad experiences that his character had, there were parallels there. That made me fall back in love with reading in my, I think, early 30s again.
Okay, so when you came back from America, you went back into journalism. So you carried
Yes.
on, and then you carried on working. Was this stage at different sort of almost like the in your area
Yeah, local
before local
newspapers.
newspapers, where your paths cross with my now husband,
Yes.
who dare I say was calling up to speak to his then girlfriend. I mean,
How
obviously,
dare he?
I mean, how dare he have a life
I
before he
knew it
meet
would
John?
last.
I mean, okay. I actually met her. She was very nice. She's very nice.
She was lovely.
She's
She was a
lovely.
lovely girl.
Yeah, yeah. He obviously has fine taste in women.
Clearly,
That's what I say.
clearly.
But yeah, so that's just in a small world coincidence.
Yeah,
And so, but then eventually you decided to go freelance, and then you
yeah.
were working in places like News of the World.
Well, what happened was, so I worked in local newspapers, and then I kind of lost the interest in doing the local stuff. So I moved down to London. I lived in Northampton still, but then I was living in London during the week, working for a website owned by the Mirror. And I was there for about 2 weeks before they closed it down and made everybody redundant. But I had enough of a redundancy payment, weirdly, to keep me going for about another 4 or 5 months down
Wow.
there. And then I tried doing a bit of freelancing, then got a job working for the News of the World Sunday magazine. So not having to do all the salacious stuff, but doing kind of celebrity interviews. And I ended up working there for about 6, 7 years.
Wow. And did you like that?
Loved it. Yeah, there were
Mm.
elements of it that was great. There was a lot of pressure having to um, we did like a lot of generic features and showbiz stuff and some real life stuff. And yeah, there was a lot of pressure. You think sometimes that because you're the News of the World, which was at the time was the most read newspaper in the country,
Mm.
that it would be quite easy to get celebrities. But if the newspaper itself had done some reporting on one of these celebs that you were trying to get and a not particularly pleasant story, then you couldn't get anybody, and it
Mm.
was a lot harder than you thought.
Yeah, I've interviewed on this podcast somebody. She's also an author, Nancy Revel. I don't know if you come across, but I'm pretty sure she was at the News of the World, and she was saying how and what a close team you all were working together, because it was kind of it was like a unique world, and everybody kind of knew that you were in this kind of unique world.
Yeah, we had this little bubble downstairs away from the main office upstairs. And I just think there's no way that I wanted to be a reporter on that newspaper. It would not. The pressure they were under was insane.
Mm.
I mean, those are the days when I used to smoke, and I'd go downstairs to the smoking area, and you'd be chatting to some of the other reporters. And yeah, just hearing what they had to do was, yeah, wouldn't be interested in that. But I had a nice little comfortable world working in the showbiz side of things and just, yeah, doing celebrity interviews.
Mm. And this is now, John, I'm going to use my amateur psychology here, and I'm going to just underline the word amateur. But as an only child, do you think obviously do you think and yeah, I say this as somebody, I'm not an only child. I've got two older brothers, but I spent quite a lot of time on my own with adults. I think you do become quite observant, or you just watch people because often you're there and you're the quiet one and the adults are chatting away. And do you think you always had quite a fascination with people? And I mean, I know you're saying like journalism, obviously it did draw you, and to then do those kind of interviews with celebrities, that you were probably all the seeds had been sown for your fascination with people.
one of my first editors, and I always remember, he gave me this. He told me this. He said, "Everybody has a story," and it's true. And people might not realize what their story is, but every one of us has a story. And yeah, I'm quite fascinated by people, if whether it's in books or whether they're in the world of showbiz or reality, real life. Yeah, yeah, I'm interested in people. Even now, I people watch.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what I do. It makes me sound a bit like a weirdo, just
No.
staring at people. But no, just like, and there's so many things that I pick up from people, just like maybe what they'll do with a hand when they're speaking, or maybe they have a little habit of playing with a watch strap, and I end up incorporating that into books or one thing or the other.
It's having that, like, you get used to as a child, like almost having to step back slightly. You live a little bit on the side, but actually it does you a lot of good when you go into something like this. And then presumably when you're interviewing, all the different people, I did hear the story, John, of you being interviewed where you were interviewing a Spice Girl.
Oh yes.
I love that. If for the listener, would you, because I think this is such a brilliant story.
It was just really, really awkward. So yeah, it was a particular Spice Girl, and she was lovely, but she'd obviously read way too many self-help books, and some of the things that she would come out with, like she was like, "My heart is like a filet mignon. It's just like, it's so tender," and just all this weird kind of stuff. And she was just about to release an album, and she'd asked me if I'd listened to it, and I had. And she asked me what my favourite song was, and I couldn't remember any of the song titles apart from one of them. And then it was just me and her in this restaurant. They'd closed it down in the hideout for the day for interviews, and she basically just sang me this song for about 3.5, 4 minutes, just across the table. And what do you do when someone who maybe is not the greatest singer in the world suddenly starts singing to you? So, and I just I think I ended it with just a little bit of applause afterwards, and just said, "Oh, so many of your fans would love to be where I am now." It was just yeah.
Did you tap your foot?
I don't think I did. I think I was looking for an escape route.
I always know my husband's awkward because he starts tapping his foot, when there's something going on like that. But that's him. Because I heard you being interviewed and you say that, and I was thinking, just imagine, John, if one day I have a Spice Girl on this podcast and
Yeah.
I'll talk to them about one of their moments, and they'll say one of my finest moments was with a journalist called John Mars, and I really hit my heart. It just felt
Yeah.
wonderful. That could be her magic moment, John.
You know what? I believe that this Spice Girl has written books before. So yeah, hasn't every celebrity written a book now? I say written in inverted commas.
Yes, yes. Well, exactly. We'll come on to that. And in that, while we stay in that world, did you, I mean, again, like when you are in that, and you obviously were interviewing some really sort of very well-known people, and did that teach you, again, I have a tiny taste of it in my life as a journalist, but you always sort of think that it's going to be particularly different. But you realise they're not. Everybody is. It's a cliche, isn't it? But we are all very, very human. And was that your experience, or when you're dealing with something like the news of the world, did you see a different side?
So when you're dealing with the news of the world, you always have to have an angle. You have to have a cover line. You have to, as soon as you go back to the office, right, what's your line? So it has to be like the most interesting thing. So throughout an interview, you're constantly thinking of, okay, what can I get from this person? For other publications that I used to write for, when I left there, it wasn't so much like that. It was just more about just I try when I did my interviews to just have a conversational approach, rather than I'd sit there, I'd have my questions in front of me, because sometimes people were dead easy and you could just have a conversation. You wouldn't even need to reference your questions. And other times they were quite tricky. I remember doing an interview with Meatloaf, and he was kind of pleasant, but it was clear that he would rather me not have been there that day because he wasn't in the mood for interviews.
Right.
So that was a bit of a struggle. So I couldn't take the conversational approach. But I remember Lionel Richie. It's always it's always the ones that have been around for a long time, like Lionel Richie, Joan Collins, Belinda Carlisle, people of a little bit older than me, but who've lived a life, who are the most interesting, and who are great with anecdotes, and they know what they say, and they know what they don't want to say. And I much preferred doing those than I did the young reality stars who are a lot more media trained. The one thing I have learned, the one thing that I found the hardest when I started writing books, was them being on the other side of interviews. So my career was spent basically talking to people to promote whatever they wanted to promote and whatever they wanted to plug. And then it became people talking to me, and I'm having to try and sell my books and talk to them about my books, when all I wanted to do was sit and ask them questions about them.
Yeah, I bet you
And
did.
I still find that difficult now.
Yeah, well, you're doing very well at the moment. You're doing very well. Although we haven't quite come on to your book chat. I'm going to stay here just for a little moment more. But so when you met somebody like for example Lionel Richie, I mean, what was he like?
He was just lovely. He's just so down to earth. He's obviously
They always
lived
are.
life. He, yeah, he. So many people nowadays are so protective over what they might say and whether it could get them cancelled. But someone like him, he had about a 40-year career before I met him, and no one's going to cancel Lionel Richie. He's a legend. And so he just has this confidence and just this politeness. And yeah, I really liked him. I remember before all his woes, Johnny Depp, he was lovely. I sat on a hotel bed with him, smoking his licorice roll-up cigarettes that he would make me, and again, just chatting, just very conversational. Like Colin Farrell as well, very, very easy to talk to. But yeah, then you get your people from maybe The Only Way is Essex or Love Island, which is what I ended up doing towards the end of the journalism career, and that was a lot harder. That was a lot. But I say harder. I mean, I don't mean, it's not like brain surgery or working down a mine, is it? It's just asking some questions.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because again, on this podcast, we had somebody, Lisa Byrne, and she was the editor of OK magazine. And in fact, she said that was when she started. And I think this is what will come on now to how you left. But she said when it started to get to that, where it was more reality stars, that she just didn't, it just took out, because often when you're with people who have spent years and years honing their craft, and they just become a different, and they're fascinating, and their talents, they've grown their talents and all of this, whereas the reality side of life, it was something completely different.
You know, one of the hardest interviews I ever had to do was Jade Goody after she died.
Oh my God.
After she died.
What do you mean? How could you? What? I mean, how?
So I worked for a magazine at the time, and my editor was brilliant but nuts. I absolutely loved her. And we interviewed her through an angel whisperer and her mum Jackie. And so the angel whisperer was sitting. I was asking the angel whisperer questions, and the angel whisperer was talking to the angels, and Jade was telling them through her to her mum where she was and what she was doing now. So this was about 2012, I think.
Wow.
She'd been reincarnated into a horse farm in Australia. So she was living on a farm as a child.
Oh my goodness. And did her mum believe that?
Well, we were paying her mum, so I think her mum would believe anything.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that is quite the interview.
Surreal.
That is a surreal. I definitely have never had anything like that on this next chapter. That is definitely, some of your books as well, you were gathering all this information and experience, because at this stage, were you starting to write on your commute?
So it was about 2011 or 2012 that I started writing. I read this little story in a little letter in a magazine, and I thought they would make an interesting basis of a story. Well, let's see if I can have a go. I've never had a desire to sit and write stories before. It's just this thing. I just wanted a little project just to keep my brain ticking amongst all the other stuff that I was doing. And there was a lot of downtime commuting from Northampton to London. So I'd get at least about an hour and a quarter written on the way down there, could get an hour or so at lunchtime, hour and a bit on the way back. So that's a good 3 hours a day. There was a lot of downtime when I was working as well at one particular newspaper. So you'd have to get your ideas and present them for an 11 o'clock meeting, and then a decision wasn't made until about what you'd be writing until about 2 p.m. So I'd have the whole morning basically to do stuff. And I just, had to go at writing the story. And the idea was, if I could, before I put it online, I did write to about 80 different agents and publishers, see if I could get any interest, and there was not a flicker of interest. A few people wanted to read a few chapters. I've just still got all these rejection letters stuffed in my cupboard. So I decided after a while, you know what, I'm just going to put it on Amazon, self-publish it. If I can get 100 people I don't know to read it, download it, that'd be great. And that was the entire plan at that point.
That's incredible. So going back, so this book, this is When You Disappeared.
Yeah, so that was self-published as The Wrong Sons.
That was The Wrong Sons.
Yeah.
Okay, so you thought, so you'd never particularly had a dream to write a book. You just thought, I'm just going to give this a go. And did you have any idea about, structure, or did you write anything? You just literally put the words down.
Didn't read anything about it. I'd read quite a lot of books on my commute. I watched a lot of television. I ended up working for TV magazines, so I could go behind the scenes, and we did features on TV shows being filmed. And we used to watch a lot of previews of stuff. And so when I started writing, I kind of would visualize how it would look cinematically or on a television screen, and that was the only structure that I would use. Really, I just used my imagination. I know what I liked when I read books. I thought I'd give it a go and see what happened.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. And also to just do, so when you sent it out to the agents, had you already written it then?
Yes, yeah,
Right,
the whole thing had been finished.
right.
So I think the readers and artists, no, the writers and artists yearbook, and it listed all the agents in the UK, all the publishers, and everyone has different approaches with how they would like you to get in touch with them. So some people just want a covering letter, some want an email, some want the whole manuscript, some want the first 3 chapters, some want 10,000 words. And so, yeah, I'd spent about a month doing these, sending them, packaging them off, and then in dribs and drabs, all these letters and emails would come back saying, yeah, thank you, but no thank you.
Oh, and I say this as somebody who has been through the same thing, and it's just, how did you find it? How did you take it to heart at all at that stage, or how did you find those 80 rejections?
It absolutely knocked me down a peg or two,
Mm.
but I thought that, because at that point I'd been freelancing for magazines like The Guardian's Guide, did quite a bit of stuff for them, Q, music magazine Q, lots of different publications. I thought, you know what, this will give me a bit of a head start. But obviously what they were looking for at that time wasn't what I was writing. So yeah, it does knock you down a peg or two. But I think probably needed that. I needed that humble beginning, because I've seen so many writers who've come out with a book and it's done really, really well, and they've given up their careers and they've gone full time into writing, and the next book stiffed, and the one after that hasn't done so well, and they've ended up having to go back to their old careers.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's really interesting you say that. And I say this as somebody, I've been going, this is one of the things when I looked at your work, and we'll go on to talk about the success that's been there. It's just incredible. But I'm 15 years in, John. And I've just recently started working with a publisher, which is great, which is really great. But I'm still 15 years in. I feel very much. I haven't started. I feel like I haven't really started. And I actually think there's lots of authors I really admire, and they've all had, when you delve into it, and I think it's just that because it's a foundation, isn't it? And it's almost a bit like, not the same, but a bit like with the reality TV, in the fact that when you're thrown into something, you're like, this is how it works and this is it. But actually, when you've and it's not even with writing. I've listened to people who've started businesses, when people have had years and years and years. It all the time, as hard as it is, it's almost like just giving you a much better solid foundation, despite it being awful at the time.
Yeah, and I wouldn't describe it as awful, because I was lucky that I still had my journalism job. It was just like a little side hustle, as they say now. And then it took off through social media, through online book clubs, Facebook book clubs. People read it, recommended it to others, and it just took off. And it ended up doing about 30,000 in the end for a self-published book, which is
amazing,
pretty great.
Yeah.
And so I wrote another one. This time I didn't send it off to any agents or any publishers, and self-published it. And then I did a third. I thought that third one would probably be my last one. It was called 1,000 Small Explosions. And then that's when everything changed, literally in about, book-wise, in literally about a week for me, because 2 different publishers has got in touch with me in the same period of 7 days. Thomas and Mercer, which is an Amazon-owned label, who had read The Wrong Sons and wanted to know whether I'd go down the traditional publishing route. And then Penguin, an editor from Penguin, had read 1,000 Small Explosions. They'd seen the cover, really liked it, read it, and wanted to take that on for Penguin. And then a few days after that, a scout who was working for a production company was really interested in 1,000 Small Explosions, and that ended up being taken on, and the book became the one. And that ended up becoming my biggest seller. The quickest book I ever wrote became my biggest seller.
That's incredible. That is incredible. But hang on. So you self-published your first book. Did you say that was 2013?
I think it was about that. Yeah, my first book was 2013, then there was one in 2014, and then 15.
2015. So when those editors got in touch, was that 2015?
No, because it was like I think it must have, it all kind of goes back into a bit of a blurry haze now, because I think it must have been about 40, yeah, maybe about 14, 15.
Okay.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
been about that time.
And so just before that, when you say, because again, this is what I really admire, and this is something as well, I think that it's really in sort of all next chapters, we don't sort of talk too much about, but it is a case, isn't it? You were putting yourself out there. So it wasn't just even that you put yourself on Amazon, but you were contacting Facebook groups,
Yeah.
you were, and did you I mean you sort of have to get over yourself, don't you, to do that?
Yeah.
And did you
Yeah.
find that fairly easy, or did you find that difficult?
A little bit difficult at first, and then over time, I have to think of it as two separate people. So I've got me, the person who kind of, as I said to you before we started recording, was turfing a lawn at 7:30 this morning. Then John Mars, the author, stroke, and I hate the word, but brand, but
Yeah.
to a degree I am now. And you have to separate yourself. And so you start talking as the author as opposed to who you are. And if I wanted my books to sell, then the author had to come into play, and he had to promote his books.
Yeah.
And social media for me is still the best way to do it. I mean, it's great you spend so much of your life writing a book. You know what it's like, how much time and effort you do it. What is the point for me? What's the point in spending all that time if you're then not going to go out there and plug that book?
Yeah.
And I think social media has a much better reach than doing panels or going out and doing Waterstones bookshops and stuff like that, which is why I've only ever done, I think, one in my life.
It's so interesting, because also, so to explain to the listeners, so how I sort of came in touch with you is we've interviewed Victoria Hyde on this podcast. And it's not all just about books, we interview all different people, but Victoria set up book, and it was great, a wonderful story. She was very shy herself and loved reading books, and tried to work out, is there a way she could earn money by reading books? And then eventually she now organises with AJ West these wonderful book parties where readers come out to meet authors. And I came to the one in Bristol with my husband Rob, and it was a summer's evening, it was a little bit of rain, but there was all these people outside, and we were like, wow, there's all these, they were all queuing up to see you. You hadn't even got inside. And I mean, Jeremy Vine was in there, wonderful authors who's coming on this podcast, Claire McIntosh, like amazing, and you as well. But the engagement, John, we had never seen anything like it. And also Victoria's done really well, the fact that this is what she could see, that people who are really passionate about books and just doing, and you can do it. And so this is where the great big publishing companies, it's no offense to them, but actually now you can just do it directly, and this is what you do. And your social media, because I find social media really hard, even though I'm a TV journalist, I find
Really?
I do. And but
Why?
Well, I think what it is, John, what it is, and it's, do you know what you have just said is exactly right, and I will take it on board. And apologies to the listener, because this is now becoming like a career coaching session, but it's kind of, I can interview people for ITV West Country, I've got no problem at all with that, and saying, look at this interview because it's about that person. But with the book, and I suppose as well, if I'm totally honest, because of all those rejections, I had 10 years of rejections, and then I self-published, and none of my books did particularly well. So you've always got that, oh God, like the not good enough thing in.
Yeah.
So then when you're almost selling something for your product, it's like I become a different person. And you're absolutely right, you do need to be, and I've got to leave that rejected Ellie and tell her to kind of clear off. And because I do believe in my books, and I love my books, as much as and you're absolutely right, if I don't believe in them, well, no one else is going to believe in them.
I used to get a little bit self-conscious doing the social media stuff, and my Instagram is the one that I feel the most comfortable with. And so a lot of, when I first started doing Instagram, a lot of it was about other people's books, and then gradually I started introducing a few of my books and so on. And then videos became more and more popular, and I felt really self-conscious doing those. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't really give a toss
Yeah.
how I look, how I appear on them. You know, if I've got a bit of food stuck in my teeth or my hair's looking a bit mental, I don't really care. It's
Yeah.
just a bit of fun, really. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but isn't it like with everything, it's a muscle, isn't it? You've got to push through the discomfort. And like you, because we were watching Rob and and I'm not just saying, I promise you, I'm not just saying this, because he writes books as well. And we, again, got to get over us. He's as bad as I am, if I'm totally honest with it. But we were looking at yours, and Rob was like, that's how you do it. That is how John Mars does it, is how you should do it. And we was like, it was so impressed, and it's a lightness of touch, you're yourself, but also those brilliant things you do with authors for, is it like a minute, and it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, it must take quite a lot of organisation to do that, I'm well aware, but it's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, they were quite good fun to do. I don't do them anymore, just because I kind of ran out of. I always try to do people that I've read the books of, and it was a bit fanboy-y, really. And I had a point where I had about a year and a bit before I had a book coming out. I'm like, well, what do I do for some content? So we need to do something interesting. So I thought, okay, I'll get a few authors that I know, and then it became a few authors. Well, let's see if we could get Colleen Hoover, or let's see if we get Frida
Yeah.
McFadden, and it worked.
And you
And
did.
yeah, I mean, Colleen Hoover, I didn't think in a million years I'd get her. And she thought it was a 60-minute interview. So when it was only 60 seconds, she was like, oh my God, I've got the rest of the hour to myself. This is amazing. And yeah, it was quite good fun to do. And yeah, I mean, my husband is brilliant. He's also called John. He does so much of my social media stuff now. I mean, I still do all the talking to people, but he'll edit the videos together and he'll put everything online, and he'll be up at like 7:15 in the morning trying to find the best optimum time to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about hashtags and stuff like that while our son's watching Bluey in the corner of the room.
But that's amazing. But and then you've created, I love that you're both called John as well. That's brilliant. Yeah. That's just brilliant.
We used to have our little boy used to be in some of our videos just like little bits, like, you know, people like a box opening video. They like to see when you get a box of something book related. But then people started doing deep fake videos of me and started sending readers requests for money, pretending to be me. And so many fake accounts. Almost every week there's a fake account on Facebook or TikTok, and it's so hard to get them taken down.
Yeah.
So we took him off completely. Took him off everything. It's just
He's not called John as well, though, is he?
Absolutely not. There's no John there. Just two's enough.
Yeah. So, well, I get that, but also that does show the success, because that you have got all these fake accounts. Because the one. So going back to that week, I mean, what a week then that you have these. So after all of that, then, and what was that? I mean, what was that like? Did it feel surreal?
Well, yeah, because I'm getting these phone calls on my mobile or emails and stuff when I'm at work. And I'm thinking, I'm supposed to be working here, but I'm talking to someone about signing a contract, and talking to a production company who wants to try and turn my book into a TV show. I'm talking about this, that, and the other, and I'm trying to phone other John, who's got a bit of contract and a bit of law experience, and talking to him about it while doing my day job. And it was very odd. Even when John and I, when we were getting married, we got married over in New York, and even the night before, in our hotel room, he's going through reading contracts from Penguin and working out, okay, we need to push back on this and do that and blah blah blah. It was a very, very weird time. Wow. And a time that will never be repeated.
No, but that's incredible. And again, I've heard you say that you've never worked with an agent.
No, I don't have one. I have a TV and film rights agent over in LA, who's great. He's had to think about 6 of my books option, but you know what optioning's like. Whether anything ever happens or not, I've learned not to expect anything. So he's great, but no, we don't have a book agent. I kind of have an idea. John's good, I'd say, with contracts, and I have a kind of a good idea of what I'm worth and what's I can't phrase it properly. Yeah, basically of what I have an idea of my self-worth.
That's good.
And I'm not greedy. I'm not going to keep pushing back if I think that's too much money. I'm just going to be sensible about it, really.
Yeah.
But it's a job that so many millions of people would love to do, and I'm not going to get greedy about it.
No, but you've done, I mean, you paid off because you work with different publishers. Presumably, do you still work mainly with Thomas and Mercer? Or is it all different?
Yes, Yeah, so I do two styles of books. Thomas and Mercer, I do psychological thrillers for, and I've been with them from the start. And then I did do speculative fiction. So I did three books for Penguin, and then three books for Pal Macmillan. But I've stopped doing the speculative fiction at the moment.
Okay, okay. So then the book, the one, which I think was that
Hmm.
your third book.
That's my third. So that started off as A Thousand Small Explosions,
That's the one.
and that became one.
And then I mean, this is incredible. That was turned into a Netflix series.
It was.
I
That
mean,
was surreal.
so this is it from something. So there you were on the train
Yeah.
writing, oh, I'll give this a go. And then here we are and this is like so much of when people go into writing and you plan and it's like dreams and you're like making it, it's coming true. It's coming true. So how did that all come about?
Literally a scout from a production company got in touch. They'd read the book as in the week that it came out, said, would I be interested in having a production company involved? And it happened. And then it was, nothing happened for quite a long time. And then from what I gathered, they wrote it originally with Channel 4 in mind, but Channel 4 pulled out. So they went to Netflix, and Netflix said, yes, but we want a different version. So they had to rewrite it, and then their commissioning editor left, and another person took their role and decided they wanted a different version. So the version of my book and the TV series are very, very different beasts.
Wow, but it happened. And
It
it
happens.
and you didn't even know they were filming it.
No, no,
That's
I didn't really have any.
crazy.
I had no real relationship with the production company.
No,
No.
so that's it. Because
You
again,
get to go on set.
that's something that I think it's hard to always understand that. But when you sell your book like that, you kind of are giving it away, and it becomes a
Yeah.
different beast.
Unless you're a really, really big name, unless you're like the Colin Hoovers or the Frida McFaddens, and you have in your contract that you want to be an executive producer or be a part of this, then yeah, you're basically selling your soul.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not really because passed it on. I mean, what an amazing thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember sitting there, and I've spoken about this before, sitting there in behind the hair and makeup section on this balcony, overlooking the filming that was going on one day, and just thinking, everybody in this room, there's about 60, 70 people, everyone in there is just here because of one mad idea I had on an escalator in London one day
Yeah,
about finding your true match.
and that was it. And then
Yes, yeah,
there it was.
yeah. And it's sold, that's been my biggest seller. So it's been translated, I think, into about 30 odd languages. It's sold over 1 million around the world.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And that show that's still on, do you have any links to that at all now?
No,
No.
no, nothing whatsoever. No.
Okay.
You know what? To be honest, it's the only thing that I get regular complaints about from readers because it's so different to the TV show.
Yeah.
And they're like, why did you allow this? Why did you allow them to do that? And as you said, don't really have a say.
You
And to be
don't.
honest, I pay my mortgage off, so why am I going to complain?
No, that I mean, how incredible. How
Hmm.
incredible. And it's so right. And it's incredible as well that you've got such this attitude because you could have got a bit and like again like you were saying you know your worth but you acting as your own agent because you see it going back to you were saying with some authors if they have a great big success and then you can and maybe as well John goes back to with when you dealt with the news of the world and you could see how with people it can affect them and then you get more and more away from reality and it never ends well, so you've obviously
No,
got a real grounding in this because you're extremely grounded with all this success.
I think age has something to do with it as well. I think because my first book came out, about 12 years ago. So I'm 54 now. So yeah, as you know, we've discussed my maths isn't great. So
Yeah.
I was about 44 when that came
Sounds
out.
good to
Uh,
me.
yes. And I think age has a lot to do with it. And I'm not running and jumping into something without thinking about it first. Like I didn't give up journalism until it must be about coming up for 8 years ago. I still had these two parallel careers. I'd had 5 or 6 books out by then. I'd sold like well over 1 million copies by then. I had these
Wow.
two things, but still in my head was don't give it up because you never know. The next book could be a disaster. So just kept going doing the two until it became too much.
And were you working really? You must have been working very hard though to be doing the
Yeah,
two jobs and then the social media and contacting the
yeah,
book groups and all of that.
a lot of weekends, a lot of evenings. Um, yeah, and two things, literally two things at the same time. And yeah, it came to a head. And it came to I've got to do one or the other. I've got to just have the balls to give up the journalism because I think the books is where it's going to be at.
Yeah.
And so in about 2016, I think, so 16 or 17.
Yeah. And did that feel strange at first?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. I mean, as soon as I finished, I'd keep really, really regular hours at home. I'd be like working from 9 till 5 every single day
Mm,
before I realized, actually, you know what? I don't really have to necessarily do it like that. I can pick my own hours that I work.
mm,
I still try and be quite regimented. I try
mm.
and do it, at least if I'm just started writing a book, I'll do 2,000 words a day. Even if it's 2,000 words of crap, it doesn't matter as long as it's on that screen and that's something to see.
Okay. And how long, again to the listener, apologies for this is getting, but I get fascinated with this. How long does that take you, your 2,000 words? Would you say, does it depend?
Yeah, it depends on what mood I'm in and where I'm at and where I'm writing. The frustrating thing is that my best time of writing each day is between about 3 and 6 o'clock, and
Mm.
that's school pickup time.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
worst part for me. So sometimes I'll have to start the morning with just doing rewrites
Yeah.
of the stuff I've done the day before, or a few weeks before that, just to try and get myself back in the zone.
Mm.
Um, and then other times that you can be on fire. If you're in a particular place in a book that you really enjoy writing, you can get 4 or 5 thousand words done. But then often the next day is pretty much a write-off.
Yeah. Yeah. You can just get into it. And you write, because you write pretty dark stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I don't. It wasn't. I've never purposely set out to write dark stuff, but I just don't think I'll be very good at writing comedy.
No.
I think probably the most amusing book I've written is oh, what was it? I forget the titles of it. Oh, You Killed Me First. I'm just looking. I've got a picture of it on the wall. Yeah, You Killed Me First, because the book I'd written before that, The Stranger in a House, was very, very dark, and it was about someone with Alzheimer's who was being gaslit, and I wanted to do something a bit more amusing. And then I thought of this title of a book, You Killed Me First. Then I had to think of the story to follow it, so I had to kind of work backwards on that. And that was a lot more kind of humorous and sarcastic and a bit more bitchy than my other works.
Yeah, but it's good. You can get it all out. And and I read this, you said that you just are quite fascinated as well with the darker side of the human mind.
It is, yeah, because I mean, I don't surround myself with dark people. I don't think I'm a particular dark person, but obviously there must be some darkness if I get these ideas.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it gets you to go in those places, doesn't it?
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's I find that more fun to write than if I try to write something else.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure you'd really enjoy my romances where everyone, where
Everyone lives,
everyone
everyone,
lives happily ever after.
but there's a market for it, isn't there? There's a
Yeah,
big market for it.
yeah,
I think, see, I couldn't write something like that,
yeah.
but people say, well, what if you didn't write psychological thrillers? What would you do? And I actually have no idea. I always say, I know, cowboy dinosaur erotica.
Yeah.
I don't. Just something totally off the wall.
You'd have to write about a journalist where a famous pop star sings in a restaurant and then they fall in love or something like that.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
think
think that.
that. No,
No.
maybe no. Maybe it'll go the other way given your experience of it all. But anyway. So moving on for your to be continued. What would you like to do next?
I would love to have something else turned into a TV series. That would be amazing.
I'm sure it will.
Um, you know what? Because I never had any ambitions with this career when I started off, I don't really have any ambitions now. I just want to keep going for a while longer. I've got a book that I am writing for, the book that comes out in January, then I'm writing at the moment, the one that comes out the year after. Then in this particular contract, I've got one more for 2028. And then who knows, I might have run out of ideas by then. I don't know. So I don't really have any ambitions book-wise, just to keep kind of plodding on as I am really, and just
Yeah.
selling books and having people interested in them.
Well, that's amazing. And you enjoy it. Do you enjoy the writing still?
Yeah, sometimes I don't, I'll be honest with you.
Mm.
Sometimes it's a bit of a hard slog. I think the first draft is always the toughest. The second draft probably takes more time than the first because I spend so much time rewriting it. The book that I've got out next year, for example, that was the hardest book that I've written for a long time. That took about 12 drafts before I even sent it to my editor, just because I had so many ideas. And other John is the first person who reads my books, and he will tell me if I'm throwing the kitchen sink at it. And that's what I did with that book. The only thing it didn't have was dragons in it. I literally threw everything at that book. And so it needed to be pared down quite a bit. It took a long time before I got that one right. With the book I'm writing at the moment, finished my first draft within 3 months. I'm on about month 6 now, and on draft number 4.
Interesting, isn't it?
To come easier than others.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. I wonder what it is. It's just maybe the
Yeah,
subject.
I think also, I used to be, are you a pantser or are you a plotter?
I'm a plotter. I'm a
I used
plotter.
I used to be a pantser, but now I'm more of a plotter because I find
Mm.
that saves a lot of wasting time when you're actually writing if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I tend to write between 6 and 7 in the morning before my boys, they're now going into teenagehood, so they'll get up and then they'll be shouting, "Mom, where's my trousers?" But I can tend to, but I because I still work in my journalism and obviously do so I just kind of safeguard that time. But I think if I had to decide what to write, I would never do it. So I have it all written out, and it might go off, but that's just how it works for me. But I know that some people don't have a plan at all.
No. So you have three careers going on at the same time then: parenthood,
Yeah,
your journalism work, and writing.
I
That's a
do.
lot to juggle.
It is a lot to juggle, John. It is a lot to juggle.
Different mindsets that you need to be in at any
Yeah.
one.
Sometimes I wonder if it's too much, but I'm not going to go into that now because this is not the issue. But no, but it all kind of joins in together. But it just I'm going the long way round.
You see, for me, one of the most frequent questions I get is, I've got an idea for a book, but I don't know where to start. And I always say, just start writing.
Exactly.
Because, yeah, you don't have to plot everything out. Just start writing and see where it takes you. I don't write chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. I write all over the place.
Mm.
I'll do a character here, a character there, a bit of plot line here, all in different directions, then piece it all together at the end.
Yeah.
That's how it works for me.
Yeah.
And people who complain about, oh, I don't have the time to write, I'm sure you can. Even
Yeah.
if you grab 15 minutes
Yeah.
a day, even if
Yeah.
it's in longhand, even if it's on post-it notes, it doesn't matter. It's still all a form of writing. And if you kind of get, you are proof of that. You have three careers going on at the same time. You are
Yeah.
proof that you can be a parent, you can hold down a job, and you can write at the same time.
I think you can, and this is not to have a go at the listener at all, and it's not, but it's like I sometimes it does really irritate me a little bit when someone says, "Oh, I don't know where you find the time." It just means I do less of something else. So
Yes.
so everyone will say, and then I might not watch as much TV, or I never go shopping. I never go, I don't do
Yeah.
those things, and I might not go out as much or things like that. But I was listening actually. There was a BBC Maestro course with Jojo Moyes, and I love it. I'm a big fan of hers, and she said something, and it really resonated, that she was saying, if you keep saying I need 3 hours to write, it's almost like a deterrent. It will not, it won't happen. You can't. And yes, you've got to try it. So that's why I safeguard that hour there, because as you know, in an hour, in 45 minutes, you can get 1,000 words down.
Yes.
You can, and that is not ridiculous. That's not and so I just think you have to find a way of doing it, and you always find a way of doing something you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
There
is always a way.
You'll always find a way of watching that. If there's a film come out, you really want to go to the cinema to see it, you'll find the time to do it. So I never buy the time thing, but that's my little rant. I shan't be going.
No, I 100% agree with you on that.
So, for your acknowledgements, who are the people you'd like to thank who've helped you along the way?
Publishers and agents aside, it always comes back to other John aside, it always comes back to the readers. Because if they didn't buy and read my books and talk about my books online, I wouldn't be doing this. You and I wouldn't be having this conversation now. And I always, in every book, in the acknowledgements, I always thank the readers, because they're the reason why I don't have to get on a train at 6:45 in the morning and go down to London and work my way through tubes and get to work and interview Z-list celebrities anymore.
Yeah.
It's them. So I will always be grateful to them.
Well,
So
having seen it in real life, how they are with you, they obviously, the feeling is mutual because you have such an incredible relationship with them.
I think it's also, I do spend a lot of time on social media talking to them, and I do feel that's a part of the job. There's a lot of authors I know who don't like doing social media, and that's fair enough. But then don't complain that your books maybe aren't getting the biggest reach as they should be getting if you're not willing to put yourself out there. And I don't do, as I said to you earlier, I don't do many of these events, which is why I spend more time doing social media and talking to readers that way. And because I've done the book party a couple of times, and because I'm not out and about putting myself out there in actual person, there's not that many chances that they get to meet me. So that's why it goes a little bit mad sometimes. I didn't get to go. I got there at 8:00. I didn't actually get in there until 10:05 that night.
That was it was incredible. I have seen as a journalist, I've interviewed celebrities. I remember One Direction. I remember Louis Thomas in Marlborough High Street and that. John, it was the same thing with you. They were queuing right there. It was like, wow, it was incredible. It really was.
Just when they've taken the trouble to travel to wherever they've traveled from, you don't just want to sign a book and give it back to them. You want to have a little bit of a chat and they want to have a photograph taken. And I didn't go inside, even when it got to the point where it was raining. I didn't want to go inside because they'd been queuing for ages at that point. That wasn't very nice to just like, okay, I'm cold now, I'm going inside.
But that is the whole point, isn't it? You write those books and you're writing your book and readers are loving them. And that is the whole point of all of it, isn't it? That is that's what you want. It's certainly my goal. And it's just like, it's the way that you did it yourself. You found them and then you've kept that relationship going, I think is incredible.
Yeah. Although other John always tells me I'm one post away from getting cancelled. So he has to keep
be a bit careful.
Yeah.
Other John needs to just, veto a few things. I'm sure he wouldn't say anything too bad.
I've come off Twitter or X or whatever it's called now because I don't think it's the nicest place. And I just steer clear of any conversations involving politics or anything controversial.
Yeah. I suppose it's very easy, especially when you're at home. You can get a little bit caught up in it, can't you?
Yeah. And people are so easy to offend, even with what I would consider a harmless joke. So it's not worth risking. No.
I don't think you've offended anyone. We got a little bit grumpy back there about people say they don't have enough time, but I don't think fingers crossed we didn't offend anyone. No. And so on that note, if someone's listeners listening and just thinking, hang on, there's something in them, and it doesn't have to be a career next chapter. It could be as in, wanting to move house or wanting to, that there's something like a bit like when you were doing your News of the World interviews and then it was getting into the reality stars. You're thinking, do you know what? This is not right for me. This is absolutely not right for me. Now, you didn't necessarily have a great big plan, but you had this feeling you wanted to write a book. So it's following a feeling. What would you say to somebody who is sort of thinking, oh, there is that I would like to do. Oh, but it's too late for me. I don't, coming up with all those blocks that stop. What would you say to that person?
I don't think you can ever blame age. I don't think it's too late for anybody to do anything. I didn't become a dad until I was 49. I didn't start writing books till my early 40s. I gave up one pretty successful career to go into the book writing full time. I think sometimes you just got to take a risk. Sometimes a sensible risk, but sometimes you have to take a risk, and sometimes you just got to go through, weigh up the pros and the cons, and decide: am I going to spend the rest of my life along this, going on this same journey, or do I want to take a diversion and see where that takes me? And sometimes it's worth taking a punt.
Yeah, and it really was literally like you were on the train. Talk about going on a different journey. I mean, that is a cliche, but you really did. And if you like that, you could have as well. You could have quite easily given up, with those. I mean, 80 rejections is a lot of rejections. We say it flippantly, but that's not that. I mean, that's really hard. And then, to put yourself out there and go to the book groups and things like that you did. But if someone's listening and they have kind of they've gone their first one or first two and it's not going according to plan or as well, what would you say to that person? What is the difference? When do you know you should keep going or you shouldn't keep going, basically?
I think to know whether you've got to have a decent product to start off with. You've got to know whether your book has a potential market. And so I got lots of people that I knew and lots of people that I didn't know through friends to read my first book before I even self-published or before I even sent it to agents, to get an idea of whether it was readable. And you've got to have a thick skin at that point. You can take people's advice or you can choose to ignore people's advice. But I took a lot of people's advice and altered things and did stuff and reshaped it where I thought was necessary. And I think what's the point in going to all of that effort if I'm then not going to do anything with this book? If it wasn't going to sell very well, then that's down to me. That's either down to me because it's a bad product, which I didn't think that book was, or it's down to me because I'm not promoting it in the right way. So, okay, let's find a different way to promote it. Let's go into book groups. Let's kind of talk about other authors' books. Let's start an Instagram page. Let's start a Facebook page. Let's start a TikTok thing. And just go for it. If you have a decent enough product and it's got a good cover and it's well written and it's not full of spelling mistakes, there is no reason why you can't find an audience.
That's incredible. And it's taking responsibility, isn't it, really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the same with you. If you spend, I mean, how long does it take you to write a book?
I write now a book in about 9 months.
Yeah, so that's 9 months out of your life.
Mm,
So you are then not just going to put that book away in a drawer and leave it, are you? You are going to
no.
want people to read it. And so that's why you do your best to promote it any way you can,
Yeah.
even if that does mean remembering you're a brand.
I know. Well, I feel like I feel
It feels like that was such a like. I used to hate the word brand, and when it was in like when in PRs and stuff would talk to me about it, your book's been a brand and John Miles the brand, and it never really sat right with me. But that's what it is. It's no different. I've got a can of Coke in my hand. It's a brand. I've got
yeah.
a bottle from Chili's, a water bottle from Chili's. It's a brand.
Yeah. Well,
What I'm
it's
saying is a product.
and it's interesting because we think it's something of today's world, because I've been listening a lot, and like you say about Frida McFadden,
Yeah.
she and Colleen Hoover, and I was listening to something, it was Richard Osman actually talking about it the other day on The Rest is Entertainment about brand, but they're the two biggest selling authors in the world, or
Yeah.
certainly in I mean
Yeah.
this is how big they are. And isn't Frida McFadden, she is also a brain doctor,
Yes.
and talk about not having enough time. So she's a brain doctor. She writes about 3 or 4 books a year, and she's got children.
Yes.
And it's like, oh my goodness me. And calling him. So it's really easy to say, oh, in this day and age, oh, the algorithm and all of this kind of stuff. But the way I look at it, it's like it's always been the case, isn't it? So going back in the day, where somebody like you had a singer, say for example, I don't know, Take That. And or Gary Barlow, he was going into, as a child, he was going in and he was playing the clubs, and he was practicing home in his car. And then they became Take That, but it's always been the way. It's not actually that different, but we all get, and you have to have an influencer, or it's kind of always been the same, but we make it out to be something different. I don't know, am I rambling? Does that make sense?
No, it does. I think, but I'm also completely aware that it's luck for me as well. That it was luck that editor from Amazon, from Thomas Mercer, spotted when the book was when it was The Wrong Sons, that the person from Penguin just so happened to be looking at the new releases on Amazon and found my book. I appreciate how much luck comes into it. You have a pretty decent product for that luck to be turned into something a little bit more than just luck.
Well, exactly. You had to have written the book and put it up for them to have been able to see it.
Yeah. And you talk about, do you still enjoy writing? And yeah, I do. Otherwise I wouldn't still be doing it. I think there is I like trying to come up with the story. I like trying to come up with twists. I think I get frustrated by my own writing sometimes. Sometimes I think I'm a better storyteller than I am a writer, and that frustrates the heck out of me. But yeah, I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy reading readers' responses to it. Like when there's a thing called NetGalley that I don't know whether people are completely aware of, but that your book goes on to NetGalley, where I think about maybe several hundred people can read it and leave reviews, and that helps do the promotion of it before a book comes out. And so I'm on there every couple of days just looking to see what the general consensus is. And it's a nerve-wracking time, because it's, when we're talking about a brand, this is something that's come out of my head and my imagination, and it's quite personal, isn't it? Like your books, it's the same thing. And so it's a bit of a nerve-wracking moment when these books are about to come out. But yeah, there's a fun in writing it, and if you've got a twist or two here and there, and people are reading these twists like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Yeah, it reminds you of why you do it sometimes. So I know I'm rambling.
No, not at all. It sounds lovely, and and again, you probably built up that thick skin that is needed if there is a bad, but and you again, that is just par for the course, isn't it? As hard as it is, you sort of have to rip off the plaster, and you get to do your lawn at 7:30 in the morning.
Exactly. Who would not want to do a lawn at 7:30 in the morning?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You and other John are living the dream. You really are. Now, you are. So this is the final question. So my dream is to be able to write a book that, when you're on holiday and you just read it in a day, and you just, I've always wanted to be able to do that, and somebody can't put it down, and then they talk about it like with their husband, when they're around a drink, in the evening. What is the book that you say is the book you can't put down on holiday? Would you recommend?
I'm a big fan of Peter Swanson. I think he is a great psychological thriller writer. And there's a lot of writers that I like, though. So I don't really have one specific one. I very rarely read a book more than once. I think there's been about 2 books in my life that I've read more than once. Just looking at my bookshelf, so behind me, I do love a bit of Lisa Jewell.
Oh yeah, I read one of hers on holiday. That was brilliant.
Yeah, I think she's great. I love CJ Tudor.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Louise Beach, who also writes under the name Louise Swanson. I don't read that many crime books, but I do love a bit of Cara Hunter.
Mm,
I do enjoy her. And yeah, I don't know. It just for me, a lot of the time, it's the cover and the words on the back that kind of grab me.
yeah.
I shouldn't judge a book by a cover, but I kind of do.
You do. But you've got a good bookshelf there, John, for the listener who can't see this. I mean, it's quite colour coordinated as well, I think.
Got to be color coordinated by spines. Yes, apparently it's the sign of a psychopath, as I heard on
There
the
you
rest of
go.
the entertainment once. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, you have to write that in your next book with a Spice Girl.
yes, no
But
bad mind.
well, I'm not going to sing to you.
Disappointing.
Yeah, I could, and just give the last sort of couple of minutes. I'm not going to do that, but I feel that we have.
I'm thinking you could have done Spice Girls. Goodbye, my was it
Oh
goodbye?
yeah, I could. I probably don't know all the words. I could hum it for you and do a foot tap like my husband does. But you didn't disappoint. I've been looking forward to speaking to you for a really long time. You were a true inspiration to me and my husband. I know the listener would have loved hearing from you. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest on the next chapter.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I've really enjoyed it. I'm sorry if I've rambled. I ramble a lot. I
You
go off on tangents.
you haven't rambled at all, and I'm going to hope now that I've recorded it because we said before we started recording how you interviewed was it Tom Jones and you didn't record the interview.
Yeah, not one single word. It was half an hour of pure static. So,
I
yeah,
I think this wasn't static. You were amazing. Thank
if
you.
it doesn't work, next time we'll do it with sock puppets on either side of our camera.
Oh yeah, yes please, yes please.